On the outskirts of the capital of the empire, Atlan, there was a small mansion of barren pales. A young girl with black hair pressed against the window on the top floor, watching the carriage arrive. From the carriage, which stopped near the entrance, stately ladies began to get out in turn, while casting a disgusted glance at the house. The maid hastened to inform Lady Luna that she had unexpected visitors. True, these ladies embarrassed the maid a little with their behavior, but the heroine decided that everything was fine. Deciding to go out and meet them, Luna remembered that all this time she had been wondering when they would arrive. Finally, this moment came and the girl calmly went outside where she was already waiting. Lady Flora stepped forward and decided that since the heroine had not appeared, he had decided to come to her. The guests wanted to talk to Lady Luna Pales, the Baroness and minor villain of this novel. Answering them with a cold look, the heroine decided that they really had not seen each other for a long time. However, before starting the conversation, she invited all the girls inside the mansion. Then, gracefully turning, Luna went to the entrance, deciding that such a shameless attitude would come to an end today. Following the heroine along the long corridors, the ladies did not miss an opportunity to express their disgust at this old house. Floris's friends believed that it was a disgrace to all the nobility not to give up the barony in such a position. Sneering, the lady scolded them slightly, believing that it was impossible to be like this, because Luna was desperately trying to restore the situation of her family. And that is why he continues to flirt with Duke Rodrian so actively, behaving shamelessly and indecently. Trying to hurt the heroine in this way, they only caused her bewilderment because, does she really look like such a simpleton? Apparently, now these ladies no longer hide their true faces and behave naturally. It was all too obvious that they had clearly not come here for small talk. Luna, like no one else, knew the true reason for their sudden visit. These noblewomen just wanted to pull out all the heroine's hair and show where she belongs. And all this was because the heir to the ducal family, Person Rodrian, was her childhood friend. Luna hated this jerk because he was the one who caused all her problems. The girl was born in the family of Baron Pales, known throughout the empire for its poverty. Due to the fact that there were not even enough candles in the corridor, the little heroine periodically stumbled and fell. But at the same moment, the doors quickly opened and parents and servants ran out to help. Gently lifting her daughter, the mother sincerely hoped that everything was all right with her. Everyone tried to calm the baby, and the woman carefully carried her into the room. Thanks to sensitive parents and kind maids, even without money, she was never unhappy. However, the child's happiness did not last long, and great changes took place in the life of the moon. It all started from the day when she first came out and appeared before the nobility. Seeing her old dress, the aristocrats disgustedly turned away, deciding that even commoners did not wear such a thing. There were rumors about her terrible character, and many reproached the girl behind her back, because despite poverty, you need to maintain dignity. Casting contemptuous glances at her, many nobles felt sorry for Baron Pales that he had such a daughter. During this time, Floris began to spread rumors that Luna was possessed by her childhood friend, Duke Rodrian. From everywhere, ridicule and reproaches began to be heard against the heroine, who was considered too arrogant. At first, humiliating and baseless rumors began to spread only about her, but in the end, their anger spread to the whole family. Later, a fire broke out in Pale's mansion for an unknown reason, causing many servants to suffer burns. In addition, the only carriage was destroyed, and the horse was poisoned by poisonous plants. Unfortunate events began to happen one after another in the life of the girl and her family. Luna herself knew that all this was not an accident and did not understand why they were doing it. What did she and her family do that they are forced to endure all this suffering? One day, the heroine was sitting in her room when suddenly a maid suddenly entered her with a very worried look. In her hand, she held a letter that had come for her mistress, and the maid wanted to hand it over. Hearing that the contents of the letter were a little strange, Luna was quite wary. Opening it, the heroine read with horror that if she did not unhook herself from Person, then death awaited her. Not only was the content of the message terrifying, but it was also written in blood. The heroine was so shocked that a forgotten memory came to her mind. She was Luna Pales, blindly obsessed with a childhood friend and the protagonist of this novel, named Person Rodrian, and she was destined to die, being a secondary character, without a single word. She was reborn into the villainess of this work, who was waiting for a tragic fate. At least, that explained why these ladies were chasing her. In the grand scheme of things, based on Luna's memories, the reason she was bothered by these ladies was one thing. It was the main character of the novel, named Sarah Granada, who was Rodrian's girlfriend and the object of the villain's envy. Lady Flores and her friends cared deeply for Sayla and could not bear to see Luna torment her. As a result, they even killed the villain, disguising it as an accidental death, only so that she could not interfere with the relationship of the main characters. And now, sitting opposite them with a mug of tea, the heroine thought that in the original story, Luna was a villain and deserved her end. However, now everything was different, and the girl was annoyed by the way these ladies continued to threaten her, demanding to stop intimidating the Duke. Tired of listening to their endless chatter, Luna calmly agreed with them. Taken aback by what they heard, they immediately fell silent, and the heroine decided to clarify the situation. As for her, she was not interested in him at all because of her bad relationship with him as a child. Seeing the disbelief in Flores's eyes, Luna screamed loudly, believing that this piece of shit was not interesting to her at all. Hearing such words addressed to the venerable Duke, the noble ladies were confused. Deciding that she was not only brazenly lying, but also allowed herself to insult Persen, they decided to convey these words to him. Calmly agreeing that they had conveyed her words to the hero, Luna wanted to add something else. She decided that instead of dating Persen, it would be better to find someone else. For example, a ruthless psychopath who is feared by the entire imperial elite, named Antes Vincent. From his very name and the statement of the heroine, the girls turned blue with horror and confusion. Leaving them in deep confusion, Luna calmly left the room, notifying the maid that the guests were about to leave. Grudging her teeth with anger, Flores thought this girl was a real madwoman. Going up the stairs, the heroine heard the screams of the lady for some time, who considered her an arrogant liar. Abruptly opening the door of her room, Luna was also indignant to the core. Having finally decided to end all this nonsense, the heroine decided that there was only one way to do it. If the noble Duke had been a little smarter, then this would certainly not have happened. Such main characters as Persen Rodrian were not even needed by the girl for nothing. She wrote him a letter expressing this idea and adding that he should forget all his childhood friends. Later, when he read in a letter that they were no one to each other anymore and that Luna was breaking off their relationship, the Duke did not understand why she was so close to him. After sending such a letter, the heroine hoped that now there would be no more visits. At the same time, it was obvious that the arbitrariness of those girls was unlikely to stop. This is because she and Sayla were too different, and the girl was everyone's favorite, the main character. At the same time, Luna was a real villain, who was fiercely hated by everyone, even for no objective reason. And if now he had to live like this for the rest of his life, now only a special scroll lying on the table in the heroine's room could help. It concealed the possibility of receiving a large amount of money, which, in the opinion of the girl, would make her happy. If only she had had this parchment before, then everything would have been much easier. Considering it a very important matter, Luna was eager to share it with her father. Leaving her room in a good mood, the heroine yawned sweetly, after which she suddenly found a man standing nearby. Taking a closer look and realizing who was standing in front of her, the girl's good mood immediately disappeared somewhere. His dark hair casually covered the languid gaze of the hero, who was directed in an unknown direction. However, as soon as he heard the moon and turned to her, a childish smile shone on the Duke's face. In turn, the heroine's face was distorted from shock and horror, and there was a misunderstanding in her head about how he ended up here at all. Persen stood there smiling at her affably while Luna was stunned by his appearance. The heroine did not understand. Could it be that yesterday's ladies did not tell him the words that she voiced to them? Screaming furiously at him, the girl wanted to know why he had come, because she had made it clear that it was not necessary. Not immediately, but it still dawned on the hero that we are talking about the letter that she sent. Laughing merrily, he decided that the joke turned out to be very funny, and Luna clearly had a talent for practical jokes. As he applauded her with laughter, Luna's eyes widened in surprise and felt Spanish shame envelop her from head to toe. Of course, she knew that he was a very stupid person, but it turned out that the book did not say half of his mental development. Ever since this unimaginable encounter had taken place, the heroine had tried her best to stay away from the Duke. However, all efforts were in vain, and the hero was constantly, by some miracle, always nearby. Moreover, he did not perceive it as a chase, but as a game of hide-and-seek, which annoyed Luna even more. Once he even received a flower from her on the face, but decided that this rose was a wonderful gift from a childhood friend. From everything she has experienced, the heroine has accumulated a lot of questions and claims to the author of this novel because something was wrong with the main character. Once again, when he unexpectedly met a girl in her own house, Persen decided to find out how she was feeling. Before Luna could send him away, her father suddenly appeared, who was glad that his daughter had already met with the Duke. Realizing with horror that it was the Baron who had invited Rodrian here, the girl suddenly saw how the hero ran to greet her father happily. Reciprocating his feelings, the man was glad that his daughter's only friend had come to their house. Watching how they shook hands with each other and hearing their flattering compliments, the heroine shuddered. The Baron had a very gentle character, and unlike Luna, he had a good reputation in society. He was a really good person with whom no one had a major conflict. However, the main shortcomings of his father were his gullibility and inability to run a business, because of which he was often deceived. As for the situation with his daughter and the Duke, he decided that they were just having a little misunderstanding. The Baron could not have dreamed of running the family business, and at present he was responsible for the documentation at the residence of the Duke of Persen. There was nothing to be done about the fact that the father was as weak as the son of his boss. But from this piece of shit, Luna already had a headache, and she hoped that the Baron would think about the prospects of his daughter. When she heard that the Duke had decided to take him home in a carriage that evening, she was perplexed. Not understanding what he was talking about, she heard from Persen that the Baron would go to work with him today. Therefore, the Duke expected to see the heroine at dinner that evening. After waving goodbye to the girl, he also decided that he would definitely buy her a cake for dessert. This was the last straw, after which the moon finally lost her temper. It turns out that he just brazenly ignored her words about the breakup of friendship. Clenching her fists in a frenzied rage, the heroine called the maid named Lola to her. Luna decided that they would have a special guest at tonight's dinner, so they needed to prepare another place. In the evening, as planned, the Duke deigned to stay for the family meal. Smiling, the hero decided that he was so cozy and comfortable in this house that he even wanted to stay here for the night. The Baron liked this idea because he did not even suspect how many insults his daughter had heard addressed to her because of this man. However, my father was very surprised that another place was laid, at which no one was sitting. Just then, a servant came running to announce the arrival of a special guest. Relieved that she had arrived on time, Luna got up from her seat, causing Persen to be confused. Together with the Baron, they did not understand at all what kind of guest they were talking about. Smiling around before letting the girl in, the heroine decided that this was the one the Duke would be happy to see. At the same moment, Lady Sayla gracefully entered the dining room, greeting Persen happily. Later, sitting all together at the table, the Duke remembered that the guest did not eat cakes because of allergies. He was genuinely sorry that she wouldn't be able to enjoy the dessert, but now there was nothing she could do. At the same time, he considered it very fortunate that Lady Luna eats cakes, thus showing the height of tactlessness. Acknowledging the fact that Sayla was truly amazing, the heroine didn't understand how she managed to fall in love with such a jerk. If she wasn't the main character with an angelic personality, then Persen probably wouldn't have a happy ending. Thinking about how holy she was, Luna did not hear the Duke call her several times. Suddenly, he screamed very loudly, causing the girl to shudder from head to toe. The hero decided that something strange had happened since she sent him a letter yesterday. He didn't understand. Did she really have some problems that she couldn't even reveal to her friend? Therefore, today, Persen wanted to spend the night with them and listen to all the experiences of the moon, even if it took all night. Sayla stared at him in bewilderment, while the heroine was shocked. Enraged, she began to shout furiously, demanding that he immediately stop talking nonsense. Besides, he should have thought at least a little after all. Would he really send this lady alone into the dark night? However, the Duke did not see any problems, because Sayla came with servants and knights. At this moment, the girl herself was already shaking with boiling indignation, and at this time Persen decided to clarify if she agreed with him. Luna wanted to scream again, but at the same moment, Sayla could not stand it anymore and jumped up abruptly, slapping her hands on the table. The girl was all red with anger, and her eyes sparkled with tears filling them. Not expecting such a turn at all, the heroine was in complete confusion. Turning sharply, Lady Granada began to leave, and the heroine hurried after her. Sila's step was so fast that Luna could barely keep up with her. Running out into the street and seeing how the girl was already sobbing in the arms of her retinue, the heroine screamed, believing that this idiot would leave with her anyway. In addition, she wanted to apologize for today's incident because no one knew that everything would turn out like this. In response, the lady remembered that when she received the invitation, her friends had warned her not to go. They believed that the Moon of Pails a priori could not invite her to her place because of good intentions, and now Sayla was convinced of this herself. Furiously shouting at the heroine, the girl decided that she was not only Persena, but also wanted to hurt her. After that, the lady approached Luna and slapped her in the face with all her strength, with the hand in which she was holding a bundle of banknotes, causing them all to fly apart. Sayla continued to scream, wishing that the heroine would stop interfering in their relationship with the Duke. She was willing to pay any amount, just for Luna to just take her and disappear. At the same moment, the frightened hero ran up and rushed to help the heroine with all his might. In front of the shocked Lady of Granada, he began to comfort Luna, thinking that he was very scared for her. Finally losing her temper, the heroine several times strictly ordered him to move away from her. But the Duke did not seem to hear, and then, pushing him to Sayla, she began to shout, demanding that they all get out of here immediately. Turning around and heading to her home, Luna didn't understand why she had to go through all this at all. While Persen did not understand the reason for such anger in the heroine, the lady sat on the ground and looked at him dumbfounded. From the very beginning, Luna understood that the hero was just a child who didn't understand anything, but she didn't think that Sayla would be like that either. Of course, Lady Granada's frustration was understandable, but why did she ignore people like that? Despite being a kind protagonist, that didn't stop her from looking down on the girl. Having come to her cherished parchment, the heroine firmly decided that she would no longer be ignored because of money. After a while, a certain aristocrat furiously shouted at Antes Vincent, believing that he had brazenly stolen a part of his business. Looking at him coldly, the hero realized that this person was the last person who should have said such words. After all, it was he, without warning Antes, who decided on the size of the commission. Upon learning that the main ones reacted in the same way to the unfair contracts, the nobleman was stunned. Looking menacingly at the hero, he decided that they would all regret it. Smiling, Vincent wondered if he was really going to take revenge on the top of Antes. Startled by what he heard, the man decided to postpone this conversation for now. Running away from the office with the thought that he would certainly take action, he ran into someone on the way out. Cursing, the nobleman suddenly saw a mountain of muscles with an angry head in front of him, which almost turned gray on the spot. The stranger entered the office, after which the frightened man instantly flew out of there. Turning to Vincent, the thug wanted to tell his master that a noble lady was looking for him. Hearing that it was the Moon of Pails, the hero was completely confused. He did not understand whether a man connected with that notorious Duke had come to him again. Deciding that today everyone flocks here like flies, he ordered to let her in immediately. Sometime earlier, the heroine was peacefully riding in karate along a beautiful forest. Sitting inside, she happily stuck to the window, contemplating what was to be done. Besides, it's been a long time since she'd last gone this far. The Pelesque family has a title, but in reality, Luna is always so busy with the hassle that she never had time to travel. However, now, the girl knew for sure that she would no longer live in poverty. That was about to change, thanks to the scroll she had brought with her. This document gave the right to purchase part of the territory of Pélès, and not so long ago, without her father's knowledge, Luna acquired part of the estate in her name. Since there were only rocky mountains in this place, she will be able to live on little money. However, in this place, which seems to be useless territory, there is a mystery that no one knows about, and that is the gold mines. Of course, it will take a lot of workers to work in the mines, but it will work out somehow. If everything was like in the original story, they would not even know about the mine. They would live in poverty all their lives. Later, the heroine arrived at the specified coordinates to the building, which turned out to be more majestic than she expected. Not long before, she had been looking for a place where she could hire mercenaries to accompany her. Approaching the horse seller with this question, she found out that she could go to the building before the three-way intersection. And although it was a little doubtful, Luna decided that this place might be even better than she thought. Going inside, she saw two pumped-up fighters, to whom she immediately hurried to turn. The heroine came here to meet with the commander of the mercenaries, and she hoped that these gentlemen would guide her. Taking the young lady's words as a joke, one of them decided that she had mistaken this place for a store and that she should return as soon as possible. However, Luna continued to insist on her own, specifying that she was advised to contact here at the carriage rental point. Flatly refusing to believe in the seriousness of the heroine's intentions, the thug still took her words as a joke, which was beginning to annoy. Folding her arms over her chest with a displeased look, she decided that she did not like it at all. Namely, how they treated their clients differently, and now Luna understood what level the mercenaries here were. After introducing herself and giving her name, the heroine decided that in the future she would become an important client for them. And if now the mercenaries lose profits due to their own blindness, will their commander like it? Glaring furiously at the big guys, she hoped that now they would help her. Shuddering at her gaze, the mercenary went to warn the boss about the visitor's visit, after which he hurriedly took the girl to him. Inspired, Luna knew that if she could hire at least someone, half of the plan would have already been completed. Keeping in mind that she needed to have a good talk with the mercenary boss, she resolutely entered the office. However, seeing no one inside, she decided for a second that the thug had deceived her. Suddenly, the heroine heard a man's voice calling out to her from behind. Standing at the other end of the room, the boss decided to find out if the young lady really wanted to entrust them with a task. Seeing his golden curls and emerald eyes, Luna was delighted with his unearthly beauty. With difficulty, she pulled herself together. She realized that now was not the time for this. The heroine needed mercenaries who would accompany her to the territory of the Pale's estate. In addition, you will have to stay there for a couple of days and work, and also, the girl wanted to postpone the payment for this service in advance. Considering that it was the first time they had seen each other in person, the Duke was surprised that she was already so boldly asking him for such a thing. Moreover, if she had a rich, beloved Duke Rodrian, then why would she go all this way here? Instantly dismayed, Luna didn't understand why this idiot was still considered her lover. She had never thought that she would hear such a thing from a person she met for the first time. And the most interesting thing was that, according to the heroine, there was not a drop of truth in his words. Wary, the mercenary boss did not understand what she meant, because the Duke himself did nothing but tell everyone about it. However, the girl continued to insist on her own, bringing the hero even more confusion. But Luna decided that Persen was just a man out of his mind, living with the illusion that everyone likes. He's just an angry kid who causes trouble for everyone around him. The heroine did not need a guy who thinks only about what he likes for nothing. It finally dawned on the boss that, contrary to rumors, it seemed that the girl really hated Duke Rodrian. The heroine immediately agreed with this, wanting Persen to disappear from her eyes for the rest of her life. She hoped that she had explained her position to the hero well enough. However, Luna had already realized that their conversation had gone in the wrong direction. Also realizing that her request was unfounded, the girl decided to go elsewhere. And at that moment, to her surprise, the hero suddenly agreed to conclude a contract with her. As it turned out, the reason for his decision was that he felt some kind of camaraderie with the lady. Now, he intended to introduce her to his mercenaries first. At this moment, the soldiers were spending time in the dining room, sitting over a glass of beer. But as soon as the commander entered their room, everyone immediately jumped up from their seats and greeted him respectfully. The hero was happy to introduce them to a new mistress, after which Luna greeted everyone hesitantly. The hero also decided to officially introduce his team to the young lady. Stepping forward, he was happy to welcome a new client to the top of Antes. Frozen in place from shock, the heroine hoped that she had just heard. At the very thought that this place would have something to do with the crazy psychopath Vincent Antes, she was horrified. This man is the most violent villain of the novel, and the top was the place he sponsors. Moreover, there are rumors that he took bribes, so people treat him very badly. Realizing that she had come to such a place alone, Luna could barely stand on her feet in fear. The boss decided that she could feel at home here, and the girl, meanwhile, frantically tried to find a way out of the situation. Suddenly, a mountain of muscles sitting nearby, who had escorted the heroine to the chief, saw the mistress at the entrance. Running up and bowing to her, the hero was very sorry for everything that had happened before. The boss was quite puzzled and did not understand what was happening, but Luna pretended that it was nothing special. Of course, this thug was initially rude to her, but still, she didn't want to embarrass him in front of the others. Admiring her mercy, the mercenaries began to shout with one voice, wanting to fulfill any demand of the mistress. Confidently clenching their fists, they believed that nothing was impossible for them and that the lady could trust them completely. Looking at their rough smiles and steel muscles, Luna thought in dismay that it was somehow burdensome. The head was concerned about the girl's blue complexion, but as it turned out, she was just worried about whether they would be able to accompany her safely. They all looked a bit rude, but they were official mercenaries, so there was nothing to worry about. In any case, the heroine understood that she could not afford anything else now, which meant that she just had to wait until it was all over. She firmly decided that in no case she should not get even more involved with Antes, but after 3 hours, something went wrong. Foam flowed like a river, and everyone drank to the health of the esteemed lady, Lady Pales. At this moment, Luna seemed to become one of them, and together with everyone happily raised a mug under each toast. Later, all the fighters were delighted with how the lady took revenge on Duke Rodrian by throwing a cake in his face. Thus, cursing at Persen, they became very close and the heroine became one of the boards. The mercenaries were very indignant at the shameless rumors, sincerely sympathizing with the difficult life of the mistress. Everyone unanimously decided to correct these rumors, which greatly amused the girl, and at this time, the boss was closely watching her from the sidelines. Then, approaching her, he wondered if the heroine would agree to talk to him. He was also sure that his people were not as bad as the girl initially thought. Sneering, Luna agreed with this, because no one had ever met her except for her family and servants. The chief liked the reaction of the mercenaries to the heroine, and he understood that they must have all felt the camaraderie with her. Turning her gaze to the crowd, the girl noticed that as soon as they found out about her hatred for Persen, they immediately opened up and treated her kindly. And even now, despite their rough appearance, they seemed to be people with a very kind soul. Luna decided that perhaps something had happened to Persen, as well as to her, in the past. At this moment, she stared at the mercenary boss, who immediately noticed it. Smiling, the young man wondered if the lady had looked at his face. Taken aback by his words, Luna immediately began to deny it, and the hero decided with a smile that he was mistaken. In fact, the heroine was really interested in something and she wanted to ask a question. Smiling, the boss decided that she could ask him anything she wanted. No matter how much the girl thought about it, she could not find at least one reason. Therefore, she still decided to ask the hero a question and find out why he continues to communicate with her informally. At that moment, there was a deathly silence, and the dumbfounded eyes of all those gathered were directed at them. The head clearly did not expect such a question, and for the first few seconds, he was completely confused. Coming to their senses, the soldiers began to frantically clarify that it was not important and that it was not worth paying attention to the manner of communication of the master. However, Luna did not understand how it could be left just like that, and whether it was possible to communicate informally at the first meeting. Suddenly, the boss decided that he was really not polite to the mistress, but he was not used to formal speech and did not know how to speak correctly. Therefore, he hoped for the girl's condescension, that she would not mind simple, informal communication. Not understanding what kind of nonsense had just flown out of the hero's mouth, Luna did not like it at all. It was quiet again, and all the mercenaries looked at the heroes in horror. Sighing languidly and starting to make eyes, the young man did not understand the reason for the refusal, because he was even ready to fulfill any request for her. At that moment, the heroine again felt this feeling inside, which arose from the moment of their first meeting. The boss had a handsome face, just like the protagonist Persen, and she wasn't sure if the face was causing this sensation or something else. But whatever it was, this guy really caused her a feeling of dislike, because he was suspiciously arrogant. Seeing that the cute face on her did not work, the hero once again fell into a stupor. Sighing heavily, he had to admit that the lady still didn't have enough trust in him. Then he decided to propose to her, which puzzled the heroine very much. In order for her to trust him with peace of mind, the hero was ready to give the girl a guarantee of the top of Antes. Hearing also that by guarantee he meant an imperial assurance, Luna was completely confused. This was a very expensive insurance, which was managed directly by the Imperial Palace. It is granted in the event that something unfair happens to the certifier. Knowing that under this insurance the Imperial family personally compensates for all the damage, Luna did not understand why the hero would do this. The reason turned out to be very simple, and the boss just wanted to continue informal communication with her. Hearing these words, the girl, as well as all the mercenaries, was numb with shock. At this time, Duke Rodrian's estate was illuminated by the crimson light of the sun, which was setting towards sunset. Standing near the window, Persen was deeply dismayed by everything that had happened during these days. Recently, he found out from Luna's father that the heroine went to the territory of Pélès without specifying when she would return. The Duke didn't understand why she hadn't told him anything since they were so close. She didn't have much money, so she would probably be back soon, but Persen was still worried. Seeing a servant in the corridor, he ordered him to immediately prepare the carriage for departure. Soon, the carriage was assembled and the Duke immediately set off on a long journey. He was very concerned about the heroine's strange behavior lately. Persen sincerely believed that since she had been sweet and kind to him since childhood, then now everything should be exactly the same. However, Luna began to sulk and get angry more and more often, and the hero did not understand why she was so with him. Suddenly, it dawned on the Duke and the veil of thick veil fell from his eyes, revealing the true meaning of the girl's behavior. Thinking that she was preparing a surprise party for him all this time, Persen was delighted. Calming down on this, he was completely sure that the moon could not hate him. Looking out the window with hope and enthusiasm, the hero knew that he and the girl were the closest friends. At the same time, the heroine got goosebumps from a sudden horror. From such a disgusting feeling, she suddenly became dizzy and lost her balance. Picking up the lady and preventing her from falling, the mercenary leader was very surprised at how abruptly she turned pale. When he learned that she just thought that Persen was somewhere nearby, the hero was shocked at how much the poor thing suffered from him. Opening the door of the carriage, the head decided to introduce Luna to the inspector sent from the Imperial Palace, who was sitting inside. Upon learning that he would be traveling with them for the next couple of days, the heroine was surprised that they had received recognition from the Emperor. At first it was hard for her to believe it, but it seemed to be true. They had gathered only those mercenaries whom they already knew by sight, and at the same time, no one had yet received a penny in advance, although she had asked for it. The girl was confused that for such treatment, the boss wanted her to communicate with him without formalities. Looking at him intently, she decided to find out the name of the hero, since she still does not know what his name is. Besides, since they were going to travel together anyway, it would be good to know the names anyway. To her surprise, the hero did not answer immediately, but stared thoughtfully out of the window for a while. Suddenly, he decided that Luna could call him a general, which took her aback. As a justification for this, he remembered that His Majesty also called him that. Chuckling and turning away, the heroine realized that he simply did not want to tell her his real name. Looking at the boss again, she couldn't understand what he was thinking. Seeing his imperturbable smile and kind but mysterious look, the girl thought that although he was handsome, he was still very strange. If it goes on like this, then the big question is whether they will be able to get there safe and sound. Soon the carriage reached its destination, and the heroes found themselves in the middle of rocky rocks. The general could not hide his surprise at how much this place did not meet his expectations. He did not understand what could be done here, except to pick up a couple of high-quality stones. However, according to Luna, it turned out to be a matter of loot, and she was going to dig one of the local mountains as if she wanted to get rid of it. At first glance, there was nothing special in this rock, and the hero did not understand if something was buried there. Nodding in agreement, the girl wanted to dig for a sample today, and then hire workers for a full-fledged extraction. Having determined the scale of the work, the heroine decided that everything was clear to her now. With the eyes of a strict foreman, she looked at the mercenaries and decided that it was time to start entertaining manual work. The day flew by unnoticed, until suddenly one of the fighters was blinded by a bright glare coming from where his pickaxe had struck. Holding such a huge piece of pure gold in his hands for the first time, the thug could not believe his eyes. Everyone was in deep shock and awe when they realized that they had found a gold mine, the reserves of which were colossally huge. Even Luna, who knew about the gold mine, didn't expect to see so much gold and was stunned. In the original story, she sold this mountain, and now she could not believe that there were such deposits here. Taking a huge piece of gold in her hand, she looked at it languidly, deciding that this meeting would change her life. The general was also impressed and looked at the ore in his hand with surprise. The gold stone had not been processed, but it was already very pure, and even if he was not a professional, the hero could say that it was of the highest grade. In addition, such an amount of ore does not require any confirmation. Now the boss understood why Luna turned so pale at the first meeting with his people, because she was probably just worried about safety. In her opinion, when you find such treasures, there is a risk that people with glowing eyes, such as his mercenaries, can stick a knife in the back. And since this trip was supported by the royal family, she hoped that no one would have a problem keeping their mouths shut. The thugs and the rest of the fighters immediately ran up to her, tearfully begging her to believe them, because contrary to appearances, they were very good guys. But Luna had already seen it herself, so she decided that as soon as they finished, everyone would be entitled to a bonus for their work. Hearing this, the mercenaries immediately grabbed their pickaxes and ran to the excavations. Looking at them, the heroine felt tired and remembered that there was only one problem left. She decided to ask the general that when they sent a sample of the stone to the capital and dug up the rest of the deposits, would their deal also end? Smiling mysteriously in response, the hero decided that he did not know if it would be so. Alerted by his words, the girl reminded that she had promised to pay the workers what they deserved, but was that not enough? However, the boss didn't want to change the terms of the contract, but he meant ending their contract once everything was dug up. Smiling, he decided that their relationship could not end so easily. If Luna sells all this to the Antes chapters, then the hero will be able to give her more than there is. Confused by his words, the heroine found such an offer quite tempting and did not know what to do. This situation will help to gain the recognition of the imperial family, and it is unlikely that it will be possible to conclude such a successful deal later. However, making a deal with the Antes family was tantamount to climbing into the mouth of a tiger without permission. Realizing all this, Luna agreed to the deal, but only on 3 conditions. Meanwhile, at the Rodrian Manor, Scylla was very surprised by the absence of Persen, whom she had previously agreed to meet. The butler apologized and remembered that the lord had left the estate without warning anyone. The matter was so urgent that the duke had no choice but to leave in a hurry. The lady's hands trembled at the thought that arose in her head, and she did not understand if his affairs were connected with the moon again. On the one hand, Zillion, the butler, knew that Mrs. Granada grasped everything on the fly. If you continue to lie, then she will immediately see through everything, and wouldn't it be better to tell her everything as it is, and at the same time dilute the situation? But on the other hand, it is impossible to wound the purest heart of the mistress, and in such a case it is necessary to deny and defend the master to the last. Of course, the butler has lost a lot of hair from the duke's antics, but because of the truth, his engagement can be ruined. In the end, Zillion decided in favor of continuing to lie and thereby protect his master. First of all, he decided to clarify that the duke had indeed left the estate in a great hurry. However, this time, his affairs were in no way absolutely related to Mrs. Palesa. With a sigh of relief, Lady Granada remembered that the hero had often mentioned her lately. She didn't even notice how she began to doubt, but now everything was fine, because Persen was not that kind of person at all. Sayla even thought that perhaps the problem was with herself. After all, she herself had expressed a desire to marry the duke, and now she was constantly worried about Lady Palesa. Lady Granada did not know what to do if the heroine not only became the object of his interest, but stole his heart. Zillion decided that she had nothing to worry about, for she was the only and deeply loved bride of the master. The reason why Persen visits Luna so often is because he is trying to be generous in paying tribute to their old friendship. Fully agreeing with his words, the girl decided that it was time for her to leave. Left alone and sighing heavily, the butler decided that he might not live to see retirement. The master is also good, because by constantly thinking aloud about Mrs. Palesa, he sets himself up. Meanwhile, Luna and the general sat in his office and made a new treaty. As for the payment under the contract, taking into account the conditions of the girl, the hero showed her the amount that will come out approximately. Seeing this figure in the document, it began to seem to Luna that even the paper of the contract began to glow with a golden sheen. Outwardly unfazed and deciding that everything was as she expected inside, the lady was deeply shocked by such a huge amount. Her first condition was to buy gold only at the highest value on the market, and the second was that Antes would provide her with labor. The last condition was to receive payment in advance, and the general hurried to write a check. After giving Luna the promised payment, the boss remembered that she had said she was going to go to the capital. Happily counting the banknotes, the heroine thought about a couple more things that needed to be done and wanted to go as soon as possible. The hero decided to find out if she had found herself carts, and, as it turned out, Luna had not even begun to look for it yet. While the girl was thinking about hiring her a silver or gold carriage, the general suddenly decided to give her his own. Taken aback by his words, the heroine was of course only for it, but there was absolutely no need for it. The boss was puzzled by her answer, remembering Luna's words that she also felt a certain spirit of partnership. With a smile, he decided that perhaps for this reason, he wanted to please her more and more. Boiling like a kettle with embarrassment and pretending that she understood everything, the girl flew out of the office like a rocket. Smiling mysteriously at her goodbye, the boss wanted to see her again as soon as possible. After a while, watching how the heroine was preparing to leave in a carriage, the hero heard the voice of his subordinates. The mercenaries understood that this was a fairly large transaction, but they were puzzled by the actions of the head, because he usually did not resort to such methods. In response, the general decided that since Luna was one of the significant owners of the gold mine in the empire, he needed to present himself well. If suddenly someone offended the mistress, would he definitely not see such a deal? This was enough for the soldiers to stop thinking about it, but the hero himself understood that he really behaved differently. Contrary to rumors, the heroine turned out to be very thorough and reasonable, and although very calculating, she was also not insensitive. Moreover, this girl knows well how to win people over and looks more like an experienced merchant than an aristocrat. However, the general wondered what had happened between her and the duke. Initially, he did everything as a joke because he just wanted to make himself look better. But somehow, the hero became more interested in the moon than he had planned. The boss also realized that even Persen could be useful, because thanks to him, he was able to meet Lady Palesa. A short time later, after the heroine's departure, a guest unexpectedly came to him. According to the thug, this was someone who should not meet Mrs. Palesa, so he was sent to wait at the back entrance. Later, sitting proudly in the general's office, Persen surprised him with his sudden visit. On the other hand, the hero understood that only this person could show up like this without an invitation, so he wanted to know why the duke had come to see him in the first place. After his men had fought him last time, the general had thought that Persen would never show up again. Feeling ashamed and furious at his words, the duke was sure that the hero already knew the reason for his arrival here. Turning to a heart-rending scream, Persen believed that the general was spreading his hands too much. Therefore, grabbing his sword, he wanted to know where the moon was now, but the hero pretended that he had no idea about it. But the duke knew that this was a lie, because without the help of the general, the girl could not get here, so he must have hidden her somewhere. Hearing the order to bring the heroine here, the young man wondered if she was really Persen's property. Now he finally understood why Luna had such an attitude towards Duke Rodrian. Therefore, the general was happy to report that she could not stand the duke, otherwise why would she come here? Believing these words to be a blatant lie, Persen wanted Antes Vincent to confess immediately. Shocked by how difficult it is to have a dialogue with him, the hero decided to tell everything as it is. Smiling, Vincent decided that his adored girlfriend, Lady Palesa, had entered into a very special relationship with him. Looking at the duke's trembling, the general didn't know if he should continue. The hero and the girl were honest with each other, bared their souls and became more than just friends, and also spent several nights together. Vincent did not specify what he meant about their working relationship and the fact that he and the heroine had been digging for gold for several nights. In any case, Persen firmly believed that Luna could not be interested in a psychopath like him. The duke was furious that the heroine was supposed to meet him, and in the end she met the proclaimed psychopath. With a smirk, everything became clear to Vincent, except that why was he called a psychopath? Grabbing his sword, Persen was sure that Luna could not do such a thing, and for sure it was all dirty tricks of the hero. And how did such a scoundrel dare to approach an innocent heroine? Deciding that Vincent was trying to trick his girlfriend, the duke was not going to leave it just like that. With that, he abruptly drew his sword from its sheath and made a lightning swing as he attacked the hero. However, in an instant, everything changed, and the general decided to clarify who allowed Persen to swing a sword on his territory. Holding his sword in his hands and examining it, Vincent wanted to let him get away with it this time, as he was in a good mood. After that, he calmly broke his blade with his bare hands, deciding that he would do the same to Persen if he did something stupid again. Numb with terror, the Duke stared at the fragments of the steel blade and did not understand how this was even possible. Counting the hero with a monster and deciding that he would not leave it like this, Persen Rodrian hastily ran away from his house. At that moment, the thug entered the chief's office as he heard some screams from here. He wanted to scare the Duke like he had done last time, but the general decided that it would be better to break his wagon instead. Hearing also that the head was going to go to the capital, the subordinate was confused. Taking his raincoat, Vincent pretended that there were a couple of documents left that needed to be handed over to his VIP client. In addition, he was worried about something in Persen's eyes, and therefore the hero wanted to see the moon as soon as possible. Meanwhile, the streets of the capital were crowded with the local aristocracy, having fun. Florence drank tea in one of the pastry shops, together with her friends, and listened to their stories. When the girls' stories were exhausted, she decided to tell them the latest rumors. Grinning maliciously, the lady decided to clarify that it would be about a new atrocity of the Pale's family. Being amazed, the friends did not understand how the heroine was not tired of pranks. This time, she organized a dinner at her estate and invited Lady Granada to it. In addition, Duke Rodrian was also present, and apparently Luna wanted to show off her friendship with him to Sayla again. The girls immediately became indignant, not understanding how they could allow her to do whatever she wanted. At this time, not far from them, the carriage of the House of Antes, in which the heroine arrived, stopped. Seeing how the young coachman helps the girl get out of her, Florence and her friends decided to teach her a lesson. Meanwhile, Luna found out that it was not just a coachman, but also her personal bodyguard, appointed by the general. Walking with him past the windows of high-end stores, the heroine thought about giving her dad, as well as Emma and Lola. Suddenly, in one of the many shop windows, she saw several samples of exquisite dresses. The girl remembered that she was not recognized for a long time because of her appearance, and it would probably be good to start with clothes. Turning to her escort, she decided to clarify if there was a quality clothing store somewhere nearby. Realizing what the catch was, the hero decided to clarify that there are many high-quality stores, but she needs the most expensive one, doesn't she? Admiring his insight, Luna had the impression that he had just read her mind. Soon, the security guard took the girl to the most fashionable boutique in the entire capital. It turned out to be much more luxurious than she imagined, and the heroine hoped that the dress would not cost as much as a whole house. Watching from the sidelines, the store employees crowded into the corner, deciding that it was unlikely that these people were customers. In such poor outfits, they looked more like a maid and an errand boy. Seeing that even with the arrival of customers, none of the workers moved, Luna thought that she needed to sign up here in advance. At that moment, Florence and her friends entered the store and immediately noticed the poor dress of the heroine. As the ladies approached them, they continued to taunt more and more, which annoyed the guard. In addition, the girls did not understand that Lady Palesa had forgotten here, because even if she pawned everything she had, she would not be able to buy anything here. Hearing that the escort had already begun to be indignant, Luna decided that it was not worth paying attention to them. Standing up so that the workers could hear her, Luna resolutely expressed her desire to buy the most expensive dress here. At this moment, Florence and the ladies fell silent, staring at her with surprised expressions. After that, laughing heartily, they did not understand whether the heroine really did not know her place so much that she was lying so brazenly. However, deciding that it had become too noisy, Luna ordered them to shut up, because she had also come here to shop. Realizing that her intention was serious, the ladies were very puzzled and decided to see what would happen next. Looking at them, Luna decided to bet, and if she really couldn't afford a dress, she would do whatever they wished. The girls were even more confused, while Florence thought it was an interesting statement. Gladly accepting this bet, the lady reminded the heroine that she wanted to see the most expensive dresses in the store. Glad that they had fallen for it, Luna decided that the ladies could sit down and enjoy the view for the time being. Listening to her advice and calmly sitting down on the sofa, the girls decided that the result of this argument was obvious. They wanted to see the heroine's pathetic attempt to buy herself a dress, because later she would even have to lick their shoes if the lady wanted to. Looking at the shop workers with a smile, Luna wanted a catalog of dresses. Still considering her abnormal, just wanting to attract attention, the employees coldly handed her the catalog. Judging by the appearance of the heroine, they decided that she would definitely not have enough to buy even the cheapest dress. Meanwhile, the girls were discussing that they needed to put the upstart in her place with their desire, and as an option, they could tear her dress. After taking a sip of tea and at the same time hearing that Luna wanted to see all the dresses from the catalog, the ladies choked at the same time. Completely confused, they didn't understand how much money she was going to use to buy this. At this time, the manager came out into the hall, at the noise, and looked intently at the guests. Having received a check from the heroine's security guard, the employee decided to first check if it was stolen and gave it to the manager. Seeing that it was a black check used only by the upper class, he stared at it dumbfounded. Hearing also that Lady Palesa had become their VIP client and needed to be served at the highest level, Flores turned pale with shock. The manager immediately ordered all the workers to bring all the dresses, as well as jewelry and shoes that would fit the lady. Seeing how their leader fainted from what she had experienced, the other ladies were completely at a loss. Smiling sweetly, the heroine decided that she would return to them immediately after trying on the outfits. First of all, she was provided with this season's models made from a new fabric with a completely unique design. In some models, combinations of rich colors and velvet of the highest quality were used. There was also a special dress decorated with 100 crystals, which would set a new trend in high society. In addition, the workers who had previously cast contemptuous glances at the moon were now spinning around it, licking it from head to toe. After trying on, the heroine thought a little and realized that it would be problematic to choose one, so she decided to take all the dresses she tried on. Hearing that she was also buying a necklace, shoes, and ribbons, the ladies began to think that they were in a nightmare. One of Flores's friends decided that Luna would just return all the purchases as soon as they left, and the second thought her check was fake. Hearing this, the heroine demonstratively sighed, remembering that she had not enlightened these girls about the existence of her own gold mine. Unable to stand it, Flores began to shout furiously at her, believing that there should be a limit to any lie. But instead of unnecessary swearing, Luna decided to remind them of the bet. She was not one of those who liked to stain her shoes with someone else's saliva, so she hoped that the girls would agree to change their desire. Besides, there were quite a few people here, and you never know what would happen if the ladies didn't keep their word. At that moment, the employee who spoke most unflatteringly about the heroine came to clarify that all purchases had been prepared. The employee also decided to add that they would be waiting for her in their boutique in the future. However, Luna did not even know now. She wouldn't want to go back to a store where customers are greeted by their clothes. Promising to take this into account in the future, the workers hoped for the leniency of the mistress. Before leaving, the heroine remembered that she had to make a wish to the losing lady. The desire turned out to be simple, and each girl needed to get to her home from this boutique. However, they could not use the cart without anyone's help. They had to get there on their own 2 feet. Flores immediately screamed at the moon, considering it madness, since her house is so far from here. Smiling and deciding that it was really possible that it was too much, the heroine came up with the second option. If they refused to go, then for the next year, Flores would be her personal servant. Luna was not sure that she would make a good servant, but since they liked it better, then the flag in her hands. Resolutely heading for the exit with her friends, the lady did not want to be next to the heroine for another second. After laughing with her guard, the girl decided that it was time for them to move out too. The moon forced these ladies to get home in shoes and in an uncomfortable dress, not because of a couple of jokes in the boutique. It was her revenge for killing the only horse in their family in a previous life and destroying the wagon. But this was not enough for them, because then they hired mercenaries to cause a collapse on the road leading to Pales's house. Because of all this, the Baron had to travel on business in an old carriage, as if he were some kind of cabman. The heroine hoped that he would be careful on the way, but her father considered it just a slight inconvenience. In addition, the Baron understood that it was much more difficult for his daughter than for him, and he wanted to try to buy a new carriage as soon as possible. Even after that, the girls continued to harass Luna and her loved ones, setting fire to their house and sending her threats written in blood. If the heroine had not intervened, she would probably have died in the same way as in the original, but she did not want a quiet death at all. First of all, Luna decided to repay for her family since she had such power as money. Soon, she arrived home, sincerely hoping that Lola was still awake. However, instead of a servant, the heroine saw her father, who struggled with sleep. As it turned out, he had a premonition that his daughter would soon return, so he did not sleep. Taking her hands, he smiled at the girl, deciding that she must have been hungry from the road. He hit the nail on the head, and Luna was sincerely grateful for his care. However, before that, she wanted to tell her something important, and first of all, that her father would no longer have to work. Taken aback by what he heard, the Baron thought that his daughter was very ill and she needed constant care. But as it turned out, it was because he didn't have to worry about money anymore. Completely confused, her father thought it impossible unless she got rich overnight. As it turned out, this is what happened, and Luna decided to remind him of the land that had recently been bought from the Baron. Taking a wad of money out of her bag, the heroine confessed that it was her and that a gold mine had been found on this land. If you actively engage in mining for a while, then in the future, this place will only bring more profit. Taking the banknotes handed to his daughter with trembling hands, the father suddenly decided to apologize to her. Shocked by what he heard and his drooping appearance, Luna did not expect such a reaction from him. However, the Baron decided that if she had been born into a different family, she would not have had to go through all this. Deciding that she had never even thought about it, the heroine remembered herself as a little girl, walking with her dad by the hand. Hearing her sneeze slightly, the Baron was immediately alarmed, thinking that she was cold. Hoping that she would not catch a cold, he hurriedly wiped her nose with a handkerchief. The Duke understood that it was not easy for the girl without her mother, and he himself was not good enough for upbringing. Suddenly, the young moon spread her arms to the sides and decided that if her father hugged her, she would definitely warm up. In fact, the heroine never thought that her father was not good enough at something. Luna always knew how much the Baron was doing to protect her. Therefore, my father no longer needed to regret anything, because what kind of girl she is now, it's all thanks to him. In addition, she had a small request for him, and the Baron was ready to do anything. Smiling, Luna really wanted her father to become the manager of the gold ore. She also hoped to defend the name of the Pales family with him, because he could not do this while raising her. Cheered up, the Baron resolutely gave his consent. The next morning, the heroine happily ate breakfast prepared by the maid Emma. While Luna praised her dishes, which were so lacking on the trip, the maid wanted the mistress to eat and gain strength. Having learned from her that her father left early in the morning, even without breakfast, the heroine decided that he went to quit. The most pleasant thing for her was that if the Baron stopped working, then there would be much less reason to see Persen. At this moment, the girl remembered that she had prepared gifts for the servants, and she would be happy if Emma accepted hers. The maid was not sure if she could accept him, but Luna decided that if she liked it, the maid would cook a duck for her. Opening the gift box, the maid was surprised to see a precious pendant shining like the sun. Shocked, she decided that even if she caught all the ducks, chickens, and pigeons in the empire, she would not be able to accept it from her mistress. At that moment, other servants burst into her room, who were horrified by the number of carriages that came to them from the boutique. The name of the heroine was indicated as the customer, so they considered it some kind of deception, but Luna hastened to calm them down. Specifying that she had indeed ordered all this, the girl hurried to give the servants their gifts. From the look at what was in the gift boxes, the eyes of the characters almost fell out of their sockets. In deep shock, Lola and Hanley even fainted, frightening the mistress quite much. When everyone calmed down, Luna hastened to clarify that it was not a dream or a fake, and she certainly did not steal anything. The servants were still in turmoil, but as it turned out, the mistress had found the gold ore and made a lot of money. Finally realizing and believing in reality, Emma burst into tears, remembering how long everyone had looked down on the mistress and master. However, now, they have every chance of becoming the richest aristocrats in the empire. The heroine completely agreed with them, however, she did not expect that the clothes would be delivered so quickly. Suddenly remembering about the dresses, Lola and Henley decided that the mistress urgently needed to try them all on. Emma, in turn, already imagined how beautiful the heroine would be and decided that she could now change clothes 100 times a day. Grabbing several dresses, the servants rushed at the mistress with glowing eyes, wanting to try everything on her. Shocked by their enthusiasm, Luna decided that the main thing was to be careful. As she stepped away from them to the window, she suddenly saw a very familiar carriage drive up to the entrance of their house. The general stepped out of it, dressed in an elegant white suit, decorated with precious stones that emphasized the beauty of his face. Seeing him, the servants opened their mouths and stared in bewilderment, and the heroine wondered what brought the boss here. She thought that the hero would be busy because of the gold mines, but as it turned out, he came just for this reason. The general decided that something needed to be added to the contract and wanted Luna to take a look at it herself. Just as she was about to send him back with such decisions, Luna suddenly felt stares on her back. Feeling the tension in the air rise, she realized that the servants would not forgive if she did not invite this handsome man into the house. Walking with him along the corridor, the girl was embarrassed by the very fact that he came to her. Moreover, the hero also dressed up as if he came to some kind of holiday. His luxurious brooch, suit, shoes, and even his hairstyle looked like he was going on a date. Noticing her gaze, the general wondered if Luna had fallen in love with him. When he heard a radical denial in response, he was saddened by it because he hoped otherwise. This is because the hero has already heard that the girl was interested in him, and were these rumors really a lie? Looking at him in bewilderment, the heroine did not understand what he was talking about when suddenly she heard the name of Antes Vincent. The hero heard her say that she wanted to meet this person, who was also considered a psychopath. From the realization of what he was hinting at, Luna felt cold sweat break through her entire body. Right now, standing in front of her was Marquis Vincent's eldest son and representative of the alliance, named Antes Vincent. Numb with shock, the heroine thought that she must have misheard. Could it be that this handsome man, who looked like a prince from a fairy tale, was really Antes Vincent? Namely, a ruthless psychopath and the main villain of the novel, who is avoided by all the imperial nobility, as well as Persen's sworn enemy. Deciding to calm down first, Luna did not understand why he had just introduced himself. After all, there were so many convenient moments. However, the hero knew that if he had done it earlier, then she would have simply run away, like everyone else when they hear his name. Vincent did not want this at all because he liked the heroine very much. Hearing these words, the girl was even more perplexed, looking at him suspiciously. The servants listened to their conversation with interest, and at this time, Luna wondered why he liked her. Smiling, the hero decided that first of all, he was attracted by the heroine's hatred towards Persen. Taken aback by his answer, she decided that if the hero was going to continue to talk this nonsense, she could immediately leave. Looking at how angry she was, Vincent became more and more touched, after which he decided to clarify that his words about the Duke were just a pretext. Luna came to them on her own and was not frightened by dozens of people who are older than her. The heroine was not only braver than other ladies, but also quite calculating, and also always ready to defend her lot. Many believed that the aristocrat should not be like this, but all this seemed special and attractive to the hero in a girl. Blushing sharply, Luna wanted him to stop embarrassing her, but Vincent had only just begun. The way she did not give up also seemed to him very unique and incredible. With each passing second, he was more and more interested in Lady Palisa. Meanwhile, the girl's father was in the Duchy of Rodrian and was gathering the courage to resign from here. If you remember, it's been 20 years since he got a job here. So much water has flowed under the bridge since then, but the dismissal did not seem like something wrong. The Duke's people were not happy about the Baron's poverty, so they must be glad of his departure. The hero himself did not regret anything at all, and from that moment on, he decided to start a new life for the sake of his daughter. Resolutely heading to his lordship's study, the Baron suddenly heard a loud call from behind. An enraged Persen, red as a cancer, ran up to him, wanting to know if the man knew what had happened to his daughter. Learning that when Luna was out of the house, she met some scum, the Baron was confused. Shouting and waving his arms in anger, the Duke decided that she had some kind of man. The girl's father tried to calm him down because she knew what she was doing, but Persen did not think so. He was sure that this scoundrel had tricked her into leaving the manor, otherwise no sensible person would have met him. Completely confused and not understanding anything, the Baron decided to find out what kind of person he was talking about. Not only did this man chase the moon at every turn, but now he is also mocking her. Hearing that it was about Antes Vincent, the Baron finally came to a stupor. Person decided that the heroine had not yet returned due to lack of money, and probably she was staying in the territory of the Vincents. Stopping his monologue with a gesture, the man believed what he had heard in the middle, but now he realized that the Duke was wrong. Hearing that Luna had returned home, Person was now confused. Deciding to check it out right now, he wanted to go to his estate with the Baron. But the man had important business for the hero's father, and when he learned this, Person furiously turned to him. Shouting at the Baron, the Duke did not understand whether his work was more important to him than his own daughter. Deeply dismayed by his words, the man guiltily lowered his eyes down, after which he agreed to go to the Palace estate. At this time, Luna found out that the intermediary's sales commission was optimal, and there were no special problems with the contract. The only problem was the way Vincent looked at her throughout this time. If he had something to say, then the girl wanted to hear it, because it was hard for her to endure his gaze. Meanwhile, while serving them and pouring tea, Lola hung up her ears, watching her mistress's love story. Putting a cup of tea on the table, the hero has long wanted to ask the heroine a question. He wondered if she had really made such a statement because she was really interested in it. Stupefied by his straightforwardness, Luna did not understand whether it was really so important now. Vincent decided that if he found out, it would help him figure out how to deal with her in the future. Deciding that she had had enough of misunderstandings, the girl wanted to be honest. She used the name Antes in this way to convince everyone that she was not interested in Person. After a short silence, the hero wondered if she really thought so now. Is it not that she still believes that Vincent was better than Duke Rodrian? Not understanding how he could even ask such a question, Luna considered a hero 1,000,000 times better than this type. Smiling back, Vincent was overjoyed to hear such news. The heroine understood that he might be too dangerous to deal with. However, after looking at his face, she had the feeling inside that the rumors around him were a lie. Just like the rumors about the moon, which was very puzzling and confusing to the girl. Deciding to get down to business, the hero understood that it would sound a little unexpected. He wanted to know if the heroine would agree to start officially dating him. With her mouth open and her eyes staring at Vincent, she was numb and motionless with shock.